Here with
Richie King here.
and we are starting the 14th episode of Five Boys in a Business.
Yep.
Where we talk about business and boys and
Boys
some
and
things
business.
in between.
Yep.
So we're starting off, and we want to welcome everybody to the podcast. And you can
Welcome.
You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes,
Obviously.
So yeah,
Facebook.
So let's get right into it, Richard. What do you have for us this week? What information?
Well, did you want to talk about Disney Plus first?
Sure. Disney Plus. Harrison's a big fan of Disney Plus.
As am I. I think they knocked it out of the park with this. They had a few glitches there at the very beginning. I think the day that it launched, where the app was, I think it was overwhelmed. It crashed a bit, didn't it, Harry? Mm-hmm. So they had some issues with that. But other than, the content's ridiculous. They've got movies on there that Harrison and I watched in 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Even Holden saw one. Lucky the Irish, you watched that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those movies bring back so many memories of things that you were doing at the time you were watching the movies. And I think they've done a good job because it goes all the way back to the 40s, right?
Yeah.
Harrison, I think it goes back to
it's every bit of Disney content ever.
That's just crazy.
And I was amazed at how many movies are Disney movies. They must have been, Disney productions or something. I didn't realize they were. So yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at that business. There have been quite a few things that we've learned from the Disney apparatus, if you will, like from the standpoint of how we run our business.
The book.
All the way back from when we were trying to better ourselves in the beginning with the Disney Experience book, basically.
What was the name of that? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I know it, but I can't think of the name of it. Something Kingdom. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Why can't I think of the name of it?
It was weird too because the book was fantastic and it gave it an insight or a window into the way Disney does things. But if I remember, the guy that wrote it had never worked at Disney. He had gleaned it all from other people.
Yeah, and I think that it did a really good job of explaining. And I think the biggest concept I took from that book, here, see if you can find it. Look it up really quick. Because it's really good for people just starting businesses or...
I think it's called Keys to the Kingdom, How to Print Money, something like that. I'm not sure.
The Kingdom. So I think one of the biggest things that I took from the book was that whole thing of the whole concept of the experience for somebody in the first part of the morning. Say, for instance, somebody that comes in our clinic at 7:30 in the morning, it should be the same experience when they come in at 5:30 at night. And consistency, and that they deserve the same experience that the first person has. You know, so the cleanliness of the environment, the attitude of the people, the quality of the medicine, is kind of what we took from that. Disney used that as an example of that's why when you come in May, it should be the same as when you come in December. October or whenever. That, all of the gold fencing and posting all looks like it's brand new, whether you're there in the beginning of the year or the end of the year. There's no trash, and that there's some form of accountability where everyone is responsible for improving the culture and the environment of the experience, not just the people at the top, not just the people at the bottom, not just the janitors, as far as keeping it a cleanly environment and whatnot. But it was really helpful. It was easy to apply it to our business, I thought, but I think just Disney in general, they do a lot of things to further the well-being of their employees. And then
it's a good company. It's fascinating. I remember that book. I can't find it. I can't remember that. What was it called? Darn it.
Yeah. I'll have to think of the name of it.
Harry, try and find that. It's called, it's something, I swear I think Kingdom's in the title.
Yeah. The Magic Kingdom, it's a white book. I can't think of the name of it. The Disney Way. There you go. That's what it's called. The Disney Way.
Is it really?
Yep. And it just basically went through via story and kind of explained those concepts. And I thought it was really, really valuable. I think we've held on to a lot of it. And it's funny because a lot of the clients that come into the clinic comment on those things. Yeah. Cleanliness. That doesn't smell. It's a professional environment regardless of when you come in, and so it's a lot of work. I can see that how much like something like that done on such a grand scale.
Well, I think that
how they're able to accomplish it is amazing.
One thing Disney did great, I think, was that experience you talk about, and they really wanted that magic, the perception of the magic to be felt. Right. And, that other world. And you can't have that, like you say, if you have trash, you come in, it's dirty, or this light bulb's out. And I remember seeing a show years ago about what happens at night.
Right.
They have this basically this underground city underneath Disney. Not city, but passageways.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, to get you straight to, it's almost like a hub and spoke system. And everything comes on at night, and they go through and clean and polish. And so that the next day. And it's fascinating because you look at that. But that also goes to your point earlier about the consistency of process and perception. Right. And how, we've talked about this before, say Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, a national brand like that. One of the reasons they're successful is because you get the same cup of coffee in California as you do New York City. Right. And it's that consistency that, McDonald's is probably one of the first companies to do it super well. Right. And their product line was such that you could expect that consistency, and you pay for that kind of value add.
That's what I was going to say. It's not cheap to go to Disney, but you can be assured that your experience is probably going to be phenomenal. So it does cost for you to have that experience, and for it to happen in a certain way, in a certain manner,
That's a once in a lifetime. I remember as a kid going, as a very young kid, that perception of what Disney was it was a big deal to go to Disney World.
Absolutely.
And I remember we were there. It's been probably at least 10 years ago we were there. And do you remember they had this thing where you could finance your trip?
Oh, yeah.
And there were people at it from it's obviously a global brand, right? So there were people there from overseas, and I thought these people, I'm sure, pay off this vacation over 2 or 3 years.
Oh yeah,
but it's cool. But that goes to the fact that people would do that, to go to such lengths and expend that amount of resources to create those memories. Yeah. I even think when I was a little kid, pictures of me at Disney, and it's a big deal. You're like, oh, that's when we went to Disney. That's your kind of marker for.
Well, I think all the kids have only been once, so we've only taken them that one time. Right. Harrison's been twice. He went when we went at the conference when he was really little.
Oh, you were little.
And then he was like 5 or 6, and then he went when we went back 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. So
I remember when we were there about a decade ago. We were there like in August though. We were there in the summer.
When we went, it was April, 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah.
But just being taken aback by the sheer number of people.
Oh, it was crazy. When we went over like a popular time, that was my only gripe, is there's so many people. And when we went in January,
it's almost unsettling that how many people there are.
Yeah, especially with little kids. Yeah. Like you could see where you feel like you were. Do you remember that, Harrison, walking through with the crowds like in the animal kingdom and stuff like that? It was just.
I remember mostly over in like the traditional park. Mm-hmm. Because what was the ride about the mountain? You go up and it was about
Space Mountain.
No, not Space Mountain. It was the one about the abominable snowman, the Yeti.
Oh, I don't remember.
Anyway, that's where I remember walking through there. It was super hot, and it was just, unbelievable numbers of people. Yeah, walking around. I thought it's so easy. If you were a little kid, it'd be so easy to get lost.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I was also struck by how many, what are those things called? The carts that people ride.
Oh, the rascals. Yeah, that was a talking point for us.
It's like move.
Oh my gosh, there were so many people in those carts, which speaks to America. But that's okay.
Anyway.
So the Disney, though, the fact that the impact it's made and then the footprint that it's left over time is so interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because
they've been able to keep that going. It's almost going, 100 years?
Oh, yeah. Well, what's fascinating to me is that brand. Everybody thinks of Disney, you think of Disney World, you think of Disney movies, and basically the castle and the mouse ears, that branding. But they're a huge company. They own ESPN, ABC. Right. They own all these different, and that was a big thing. I think in the 90s they talked about it was like over diversification or your brand became so diluted that you would have trouble. GE kind of was another company that came up where they own so many things. They've gotten so away from their core
principles or things, yeah.
So it's interesting. Now, those acquisitions made sense. You're the entertainment business, so you're looking for eyeballs and attention. So ESPN, ABC, all those guys. Right. So yeah.
But I think that can be, if companies in general diversify to that level, then it is a distraction. So like for us, like as a small business, we talk about that from the standpoint of, like that's why we don't have boarding and grooming.
Right.
Because we did initially, but then as the clinic grows, it becomes a distraction from the standpoint of taking away from your primary focus, which is to practice veterinary medicine. So then we felt like we weren't being we weren't doing as well of a job. We couldn't be as good at practicing medicine because we were distracted by these other things.
You know, what's interesting too, though, is I think you look at some of those brands and you think there's only so many people that can go to Disney World. There's only so many. So in order to increase, to continue to grow, you have to do it through acquisition sometimes. So what they would do is they'd go buy a company,
right?
And they would grow that way. You grow, so it's not really organic growth. It's more like growth by acquisition. So like in that case, you're talking about what would have made sense for us is once you kind of go back to your core competency, you don't offer that in house. That's something you'd buy All-Star. You'd buy something and call it All-Star Boarding and Grooming. It's offsite, it's a completely separately run entity, but then you grow that way.
Right.
Or you buy another, I don't know, whatever, a grooming facility. I mean, something's related. I always get vertical and horizontal integration mixed up. One is
I don't know either one of them. So
well, one is, and I should probably look that up, but one is where you buy like the supply chain.
Right.
Like for instance, the recent acquisition Zoetis buying the labs. It's a related industry. Or like for instance, say you make widgets. Sometimes instead of continuing to buy, supplies from a supplier, you'll buy the supplier.
Right.
And then I always get it mixed up. The what that is, vertical or horizontal, but from a strategic standpoint, it would make sense. That's what would apply to our business,
right?
And that's what the larger companies will do. They'll go out and grow through acquiring other companies, related companies,
right? Sure.
So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is, and it's amazing that they've been able to make the footprint that they have, like in the impact they've had on so many people's lives by.
Oh yeah.
All those experiences. It's really cool because it is basically a part of American.
Oh, it's iconic.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mickey Mouse and the castle.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's something. What's fascinating to me is, you look at those American brands like that, and the same goes with maybe Ford, Chevy, Dodge. For an automotive, they're so big, they're so ingrained in American culture, and that value add must be just unbelievable in terms of credibility, selling things. I do think it's fascinating that and I think this kind of relates, kind of coming back to the Disney Plus launch. They're seeing what's coming,
right? And
their content distribution is going to have to be on demand. So they're saying, we don't necessarily want you to buy our DVDs. Why don't you just pay us $8 a month or whatever it is, $10 a month, and you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want.
Right.
And I think that's fascinating because when you have big players like that starting to take on the Netflixes or the Amazons, that to me says there won't be television as we know it. Or
I think they're all going away. They're all going away because now you can do Hulu like live, or you can do like where you get live TV, but then you get access to all this other content.
Right.
So you don't have to have and now too, I think people always held on to the other channels because of sports, but now you can.
I even think now
you can get Thursday Night Football. I think through Amazon. Isn't that right, Harrison? Thursday night football.
If you could get the big things like the Olympics or football, basketball, college football, college basketball, those things that are mass consumed events. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I'd have TV.
No, I know, and you don't have to have then cabling, and you don't have to have.
Yeah.
It's
fascinating stuff. So the little bit that I've watched of Disney Plus, The Mandalorian, we watched the first episode of that last night. That's a good show. That's like a mini movie.
I know, yeah.
It's really cool, and it has the little. I noticed last night there are little things that I remember that they've thrown in there from the original 3 movies.
Right.
You go, oh yeah, I remember. So it's kind of a nod to the classic, classic movies. So
I've been watching The Mandalorian, and there's actually this really cool documentary series on Disney Plus, which goes over the starting of Disney and building the kingdom, and it goes over also the abandoned theme parks as well. Mm-hmm. And it's called The Imagineering Story, and it's really good. I also recommend the High School Musical show. That's really good as well.
High School Musical, which is one of Harrison's favorite movies when he was growing up, was High School Musical. Now they have a series.
No, the way they did it was brilliant because it's like a mixture of The Office and High School Musical. Oh, cool. So they have the interviews like The Office, and it's like a parody of itself. It's not trying to take itself seriously. They know that it's a High School. They know it's a High School Musical show, so they don't take themselves seriously, and it's hilarious.
It is funny though. You look at those brands like that, and you think, and it's almost Fortnite's another one that comes to mind. They could have never predicted that it would be what it was.
Oh, it's amazing.
I mean, High School Musical was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it, not only across America, in our own car.
In our own car, it was a big deal.
Calvin was, you thought Harrison was tough to drive with. Calvin would make your ears bleed. He would scream so much in the car. And High School Musical was the only thing I could put on when he would stop and watch it. I was like, thank God for High School Musical.
Oh, gosh. That's
True
funny.
story.
True story. Oh, goodness. So yesterday, speaking of... This weekend, yes. It was a good weekend. We had Calvin's Sacrament of Reconciliation that we went to on Saturday. The boys had swimming.
For the first time?
Yeah, I have no idea what he said to the priest. I'm sure it was quite interesting.
Long?
He was with Father Tom, and
He's probably too scared to say anything.
No, he was like, he went right up there, but I don't know what he said. It could have been
He went up there and goes, I don't know nothing.
I know it exactly. I don't know if he knows like what he was supposed to be like asking for forgiveness for. It was hilarious.
Right.
So he's like, I think I know what I'm going to say. But then it was very interesting because he goes, oh, I am kind of nervous. And I said, oh, you don't need to be nervous. It's fine. You know, it's really laid back. It's not anything, you know,
right.
scary. I mean, you know, it's only scary because you don't know what to expect. And so then there was one child that went before him with Father Tom because, you know, the priests in different locations.
Right. Yeah.
And so they had one kid was in front with Father Tom went first, and then Calvin just went right up. I would love to have known what he said, though. I would just love to have known what he said. If he was like asking for forgiveness, but at the same time blaming his brothers. Yeah. Like, I was mean to my brothers because they were da-da-da-da-da-da. So
asking
please
for
forgive me.
But mostly for Holden because he made me do this.
Right, exactly.
It's funny they don't do it anonymously anymore. You know, the classic confessionals, you'd walk in and slide the screen.
Like in all the movies.
It's all legit anonymous. It's probably not, but they probably know who you are. But anyway, they don't really do that anymore. That I know more. Maybe the older churches they do.
They might in the older churches. I don't know, but there's probably a sense of comfort in the being anonymous. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would seem better if it was anonymous.
I know, right? Maybe more for forthcoming. There's a chance the priest would know who you are.
But yeah, I know exactly. But people, yeah, I don't know how often, like, Harrison, how many people in your generation go to reconciliation? Do you feel like when you guys were kids, did you guys go?
Well, I mean, we were required to go as a kid, and being in high school, we went to confession, but it was very weird. Like, it was very weird because they would do this school-wide confession, and they'd bring in like 15 priests, and they'd all sit in different spots in the gym, and we'd go to the priest in the gym, and it was very weird because like you can kind of hear what the other people are saying, and it's like I'm not about it.
Right. Then you're like, oh boy, that person, I didn't realize. Yeah.
It's weird. Anyway.
So
I haven't been to confession in a fat minute, and I don't plan on going anytime soon. So I'm just gonna give.
Just go like once a month.
I'm just gonna give the priest a list, and it's just gonna be a scroll that
he rolls out. So we were all absolved of our sins on Saturday. Well, Johnny and me and Calvin.
There you
all
go.
Went to confession.
There you go.
So, yeah, I feel like I asked for forgiveness like every day though. So I was like, I'm not sure what yeah.
For what? You don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I do all the time.
Oh well.
You know, like just the way you're like, maybe.
God, please forgive me. I made the Thanksgiving turkey wrong last year.
Yeah, those kind of things.
No,
I didn't. But no, I just think it's interesting. It's fascinating.
I always thought that was funny.
I think it's funny how the church has evolved over time. Like you look at my dad or my mom's family and like what
they feel like,
it was like in the. You know, and then now, how it is now, you know, I mean, just, it's very interesting.
I think what's interesting is maybe leveling the playing field's not that. Maybe it's more the fallibility of individuals is probably more pronounced now than it was years ago amongst the priests. I mean, I think back then they were, and they still are. I mean, I shouldn't say they aren't, but I think that, fallibility is the only word I can think of. To use for that, but they're probably viewed as more people than they are,
right?
You know, vaulted individuals back then.
So we had that on Saturday, and then Sunday we went to a sports complex and played and
froze to death in the sports complex. Like, guys,
they had a good time. We
froze. This is heat. Turn it on. Freezing up here. I'm dying.
The kids had a great time though. They played.
No, they probably have to keep it cold, otherwise the kids are dripping
so hot.
sweat.
Yeah. And then we did a dry run on the turkey for Thanksgiving. So we made a turkey just to make sure, because we never made one in the Traeger. So we made sure that went okay.
The rest was okay. I mean, I thought the rest of it was ho-hum.
But I thought it was good. I thought it cooked it nicely. It was super easy to cook it.
I have an idea about that.
What?
It hit me on the way in here today. We should cook it without the pan, but on the rack.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because otherwise, I think that might be one of the reasons why it would appear to be a little undercooked underneath. But I will say, maybe that happens when you smoke it, because the drumsticks were for sure done, and it was very red too.
Right.
So anyway, we all made it.
I cannot get this to shut off. I don't
Just
know
turn
what
it
it's doing. No, I thought that it was
I
real.
thought the dinner was great. I thought that the potatoes were fantastic. The stuffing was fantastic. The gravy was out of this world, out of a packet.
Oh my gosh. I can't hear. Fix that for me. Okay, so speaking of Calvin, we've got the picture for the week. Picture of the week.
Okay, let me preface this. It was Saturday.
It was Saturday.
Yes, Saturday,
you got
and
back from the meet.
Yeah, I had driven to Terre Haute.
Mm-hmm.
Driven to Terre Haute. Hang drums off.
I'd
driven to Terre Haute to go to Holden's meet, and which is a solid hour 15 away, and let's turn it off.
Okay.
Anyway, so anyway, I'd gone to the meet and got back, and I was helping Emily around the kitchen, like I usually do, and I was taking out the trash, and I was walking out to the trash can. I was like, what in the world? So there is, and sometimes it's hysterical, because I'll see that and I'll think that's exactly what I probably would have done at that age.
When you were little?
Yeah.
You probably did do that when you were little.
I did more than that, but.
So he came to the kitchen and said, hey, can I use this? And it was like a long rod, like that you sharpen knives with. He's like, I really need to sharpen a knife. And I go, what knife do you want to sharpen? And he said, this one right here. And he looks at my culinary group of knives, whatever. And he pulls out like the biggest. I'm like, no, those knives are sharp. Like, we're not messing with those knives. And so I tried to find, because instead of saying
that's not dull.
So
that's
instead
like
of so this is my
razor.
thinking, right? This is what's hilarious. Instead of going, no, we don't do that. I go, well, let's find a knife that you can sharpen. So I go, because they do a lot of whittling and things like that. So
turn it up.
It's fuzzy, Harry. There you go.
Turn it sideways. Because it's a fence.
It's a fence. There you go. Oh,
it won't. Yeah, you got to flip it, because it was sticking in it.
So I said, let's find a knife you can sharpen. Well, I'm telling the story now. That's why I'm laughing, because I'm like, that wasn't.
You kind of left part of that out the other day.
Yeah. So and they have all these whittling knives. And so I said, let's go look over here. So we went over to the drawer where the whittling knives are. We found that knife. And he said,
that's no joke. Those Mora knives are sharp.
And so then I was showing him how you use it and da-da-da-da-da. And he said, so I go, you need to sharpen the knife with it. And he goes, oh, you sharpen the knife, you don't sharpen the stick with it? Like, the stick's not getting sharpened. And I go, no, the stick is not.
Stick?
It's like the rod. I don't know what you call it. It's called sharpening. It's like on the.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What is that called? I don't know what it's called. But, and I said, no. The rod isn't getting sharpened. The knife is getting sharpened. And he was like.
Wait a minute. Let's back up on that logic here. Let's back up on the logic here.
I know.
You can look at that. It's a round rod. It's like, go try and cut something with that. Maybe hot butter.
He was hoping maybe that he was going to be able to sharpen it to the point of it being a weapon. I don't know. So he was using. So then he goes, oh, so you're sharpening the knife, not the rod. And I said, exactly. And so then he proceeded. I said, why don't you go? Because he did it, 1, 2, 3, 4. He did it a couple times. I said, go get one of the sticks and you can whittle it outside. And then that's when he went outside, and then apparently
that's not enough I would give him.
Was
it's too big for his hand. Plus, if he slips, the blade's so long. I mean, I try and give him just those short, pocket knives.
Well, clearly he wasn't using it to whittle.
Yeah, because he wanted to. What is he trying to stab?
I don't know.
Trying to murder the fence.
Those murdering the fence.
Assault and battery the fence.
So that's
the cops show up. We have a report of a complaint.
Yeah, that's our life in a nutshell.
Those are boys. Those are boys. I remember I've told you this story. I may have told it on here even. I went and spent the night at my buddy Kelly's house one time. And we were in the backyard. And he had a machete and he had a knife. So we were in the backyard and we're throwing them. We're on opposite ends of the yard. We're throwing them each into the air to try and get them to hit. And we did it for a while. And his uncle comes out on the back porch. He goes, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "What?"
Throwing knives back and forth. Yeah, I wonder where my
idiots.
children get it from.
Right. Pellet guns and that was one of the best sleepovers ever as a kid because he lived way out in the country and we were fishing and there was a pond behind his house, huge pond, and we went and found these grubs and we were just fishing. Now we sitting there for forever and with a bobber and these worms and all of a sudden the bobber just doesn't. The bobber sometimes they'll go. They're playing with no. It's gone, just boof. We're like, what in the world? So we start reeling it in. We're like, what in the world is this thing? And it was a snapping turtle.
Oh, yeah.
So, he broke the line, thank God. I don't think we would have known what to do with him had we actually brought him in. So that was a great sleepover. So, yeah.
Good stories.
Yeah. So.
Well, we had one of Calvin's friends over on Friday to play, and that was fun because he was a first grader, really good friend of Calvin's, Calvin's
very
second grade.
Very good boy, yeah.
And just a sweet, sweet kid. And he's the oldest in his family. So his mom is a little more protective than maybe I am with Calvin, who's the fifth oldest in our family. And so
they're sitting. Okay, let me give you a story. They're sitting there at the island, right? And because they weren't allowed to play shooting
video games,
whatever, and they're watching the iPad, and I come in, and Calvin was watching something he probably shouldn't be watching. It was just, it's jelly or something. It's
right.
Watching gameplay, and I was like, Calvin, and they were using some salty, not bad language, just thinking. I was like, hey, turn on something else. And the little boy goes, yeah, I want to watch Ryan's toy review. Calvin won't let me. Calvin's like, Ryan's toy review, pah.
I've moved on in my late 8-year-old life.
His video entertainment, consumption is a bit advanced for some of his peers.
So they got to play and hang out, and that was fun. And I was so worried we were going to end up causing corruption.
Oh, did I tell you what happened? I didn't tell you what happened.
What?
So I get home. You weren't there. So, where were you Friday night?
I was working, and then I went to my parents' house.
That's right. Yeah. Anyway, so we hadn't been home 5 minutes. I went by McDonald's, and they had their stuff in, and I went out to the car to get some stuff. I think it was before they even ate. And then I come back in, and the little boy is standing there soaked. I'm like, what happened? And he's like, his ribs, he's like, we went out to the trampoline, and it was wet. I mean, everything was soaked. And I go, it's cool, man. Don't worry about it. We'll get you clothes.
Right.
So we almost had a meltdown at the very beginning because
he got wet.
He got really wet. So I brought him some of Calvin's clothes, and they had a great time, except for the freaking kinetic sand at the end. I hate kinetic sand. That is an outdoor toy. God almighty.
I love kinetic sand because it doesn't dry out and they can play with it, and
it makes a mess.
It does, but it's easy to clean up. You just have to vacuum.
That's true.
And
from an entertainment standpoint, it's fantastic. From a cleanup standpoint, it can be a bit challenging. But then again, it is sand, and it does stick together.
And then the last thing we had going on was Dad's knee surgery. So my dad had a knee replacement Wednesday, came home on Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I went over there and visited with them on Friday.
Surprised that recovery isn't as bad as...
Yeah, he seems to be doing well. He's got to stay off his foot for a while.
Right.
2 weeks, I think. But I think if you do that just to keep swelling to a minimum and do your PT stuff, then I think that your recovery is really good.
My guess is, and this is just a gut feeling, that people that have had that, like him, in particular... Once you have that surgery, my guess is post-op 6 months, a year from now, you'll be like, I don't know what took me so long to do this.
Right. Oh, yeah,
the pain is gone. I've heard people say that. They're like, the pain is non-existent. I don't have it anymore. You can't do what you used to, but then again, he's not really running marathons anymore,
Yeah. I think just walking was, even just like immediately after surgery, he was like, I don't have any pain.
Right.
So I think
you will.
You will.
Just wait. Once that drip goes away.
Once we take out that drip, that local drip, it's gonna come back.
So and it's funny though because you look at those, and I'm sure some of those things will for sure be in my future. So hopefully the tech will continue to advance.
Well, and I was talking to him because I was worried about pain control and like him having a fear of addiction with, the drugs that they dispense nowadays with all of that being on the news. And I mean, he doesn't have an addictive like, genetic history or personality or
Sure.
anything like that. But he and so I was like, oh, he's not going to use any meds, and then he's going to be miserable, and then he won't be able to, and then that's going
Right.
to escalate into this, into that, and he said they were pretty. He got a little bit of mixed messages from different people in the hospital about, some people were like, oh yeah, you got to, don't do any of this, and then other people were like, oh, do this, but for the most part, they are, I mean, definitely changing their tone in terms of, only use pain control. Like it used to be that, stay ahead of the pain.
Get on top of it, yeah.
So you take the pain meds regularly, kind of a thing. And I don't think that they were necessarily preaching that,
Right.
to him. Because it's a whole, I mean, now with everything changing, well, at least in our state with the inspect and everything. And I mean, it's becoming a bit of a nuisance. And
I still
get
am
it.
amazed that Genie was ever let out of the bottle. I just don't understand how they could have possibly not known, one, that it was as addictive as it was.
I think
and
they
two,
did know
seek out alternatives, unless, and this goes to the point of regulation, is they've said from the beginning, don't do more than 7 days,
Right.
Don't do more than 3 days,
Right.
But then people would start to abuse it. They would become addicted. They would, and then you're out to the races,
Right.
So I mean, it may be my misperception of what actually went on, but I just think that they're taking such drastic measures now. It'd be interesting to see what.
Well, and I mean, for now we're lumped as veterinarians, we're lumped into that, which I get because they're worried about diversion from our veterinary patients to people.
Right.
And so they don't want that to happen. That could be an avenue for them to get access, or people that are addicted to get access to drugs. So now we're lumped into the requirements necessary for human physicians, but yet it's a nightmare. And so we're going to have to collect people's driver's licenses for controlled drugs if we dispense over a certain quantity. You have to, use what they call a clearinghouse, which is where you look the person's name up and you make sure that does it make sense to dispense this medication,
Right.
To this person, or what kind of purchase
They'll stop
history
it.
do they have?
It'll be stopped.
And I mean, it won't. It's amazing. I mean, they'll be able to get control over it very quickly, or they could just, legalize marijuana and everybody would be happy, and maybe it wouldn't be addictive.
By futures of Yoo-Hoo and chips.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'll never forget watching this thing once. It was a blooper on Fox News. I've told you this before. It was a serious news story, and it was in Mexico. They had this huge marijuana seizure, and it showed these guys in gas masks. And they were just torching all this marijuana. They were burning it all, just the mass plants or whatever. And they were laughing. And they said, one of the anchors said, "Yeah, but that was some party." He goes, "Oh, we didn't show you the clip of the guy laughing uncontrollably, sipping Yoo-Hoo and eating Doritos."
Oh gosh.
So anyway, yeah, I do think, and to your point about alternatives, I do think that this is an opportunity for big pharma to come in with alternatives to
Oh, absolutely.
those
I mean,
things.
we're seeing that in our industry. Zoetis is, when we were at the pain management seminar in
Right.
Toronto, I mean, they were talking about monoclonal antibody therapy they're going to come out with it for cats first, and then for dogs in terms of pain control. So all you cat owners out there is some hope in 2020 that,
Right.
I mean, we have no pain control for cats other than narcotics, really. I mean, for any kind of duration. And even then you can't use them chronically in a cat. I mean, it's just not cost effective.
Right.
So, I mean, we have nothing to treat arthritis, nothing to treat, chronic pain, and arthritis being the biggest one in cats. And so we're really looking forward to that. So, I mean, I do think the drug companies, but it's just comical to me because that costs money, and then therefore the drugs cost money. And people are always up in arms about the amount of money that the pharma companies are making. And, we get drugs to market in a certain period of time and with certain safety requirements. But it's horribly
That's
expensive.
all just bad politics.
Horribly
I've always
expensive.
thought, the complaint's always, well, you can get this here in Canada. I'm like, yes, but I mean, America basically subsidizes
Right.
the world when it comes to those things. So it's not it may cost out the door, but it doesn't cost the manufacturer less.
Right.
I mean, the cost is enormous to bring those drugs to market.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you do have it's kind of like movies. You have 2 or 3 movies, I'm exaggerating. You have, say, 10 movies a year that subsidize the 50 that bomb.
Right.
So, I mean, you still have to pay for those 50 that bomb with
Right.
something.
Right.
So, and it's the same business model. And I do think you can have situations, I mean, don't get me started on this stuff, but I think that it's because it's not a cash and carry market like any other consumer good, there's no downward pressure on price.
Right.
So, and that's the problem is
Right.
that you don't have, because it's a third party reimburser, people go to to the pharmacist, it's $10 copay. Well, that $200 drug, they think that costs $10. No, it costs $200.
Right.
I mean, it costs somebody $200. So, and I think it's skewed a perception of value and what things actually cost if you had to pay for them.
Right.
Again, it's horribly complicated. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that, there's a misperception of the way things, like you said, they come to market, develop for the market, how they actually make a return on investment for the companies that bring them to the market. So yeah, it's interesting.
Very fascinating.
Do you think, and it's just this is an offshoot question, do you think the big pharma, they go and try these things like in the animal population first to see how they work, and then
Less and less probably nowadays.
less and less? Okay.
I mean, there are some. I mean, there is, but now with, I mean, I think it's harder and harder for them to use animal subjects. I mean, I think they're using a lot of rats, rodents, things like that.
Right. But they wouldn't do it in lieu of like human trials and things like that.
No, they always have to. I think that I'm pretty sure that's
Right.
they're running them on the human side, experimental, like so they'll run drug trials.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff.
And then the last thing I would say, I'd like to shout out to Guerin for good trivia night on Saturday nights. We did that Saturday night. We were with the swim table because my sister is the head coach at Guerin swim team.
Yep.
Guerin Swim Club, boys and girls,
Macy
head
McCracken,
coach.
head coach.
And it was a blast. We had a great time. Her assistant coach, Ben, was there, and then a couple other families that have children. And it was a fun time.
It was fun. Yeah.
Maggie Hungler put together all of the tables. She's kind of like the swim parent with her husband, Paul. And they were at our table.
Hats off. Who made the cake pops?
And Steve and Susan. The cake pops were made by Maggie. She made those. She goes, I looked them
Shout
up.
out to Maggie. Good God, those are good.
She looked them up and then was like, I tried to do these as best I could off of Pinterest. They were really
fantastic.
cute.
You didn't have one, did you?
No.
The best cake pop ever.
Yeah.
Better than Starbucks. Better. I mean,
So there
I'm
you
not
go.
a big cake pop aficionado.
She goes, now
but
I know what is all involved in making cake pops at Starbucks. And I was like, yeah, probably more than you want to know.
Yeah.
But the trivia was fun. It was hilarious. Some of the questions that we
some
knew
were
answers
hard.
to, and some of the questions we did not know answers
Yeah,
to.
Jim Dawson was at our table. Thank God.
And-
I thought he was like, oh, Emily
and
Bronte.
this, and this, and this. And I was like, we needed
Wow,
Harrison.
because we would have bombed. I think I would have come in like bottom 5 had he not
And
been there.
Harrison would have known some of those answers that we didn't
The apps.
know. They had the
Yeah.
apps thing that we didn't know all those
He might
questions.
not have, though, because sometimes if you don't use the apps, you have no idea.
Right.
Like, what was the one, the hand? That was House Party, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, House Party or something like that. Yeah. Which I still don't know what that app does. But anyway.
Yeah, I probably don't want to know what that does.
So it was fun, though. The questions were good. Of course, it's always a long night, but they do such a great job of making it fun and entertaining.
Yeah, it was good.
And they have a best prize, like, for the table that's dressed up the best. And there was this
Who
table.
won that one?
Next was the circus people.
Oh, that was weird, though.
Oh, my gosh.
They went
their
all
table was
out.
amazing.
They had a guy on stilts.
They had a guy on stilts. They had a
bearded
Catwoman.
lady,
They had a bearded lady.
which is actually a dude dressed up like a lady. Creepy.
And they had the guy, the ring top leader,
Yeah,
They
the lady
had-
with a contortionist.
the contortionist. I mean, it was so well done. I was like, you guys are way awesome. And then the average Joes from the dodgeball. Those guys were really good. Those guys were
They had
dressed
some
up
really
really
good
great
ones. I had a
too.
good idea for next year. I thought would be fun for us.
What's your idea?
Don't you remember the hairband?
Oh, the hairband. Dress up like a hairband, like an actual band.
Like come up and pick a band and say, okay, these 3 people are Van Halen. These 3, whatever.
Right.
I don't know. I thought it'd be fun.
So yeah, that was a really good time, and we raised a lot of money for the teachers there, so it was good.
Yeah, it was good. I thought, it was a long night for me. Cheap food and keg beer. It's
Speaking of trivia, me, Casey, Katie, and Holden are going to an office trivia night on Wednesday.
Holden's going, huh? Where's the trivia night at?
It's at this restaurant called Prodigy something.
Oh, Prodigy Burger.
Yeah.
Prodigy Burgers?
Probably. And
Okay.
so,
Clay Terrace?
Yeah. And so all 4 of us are going, but Casey and Katie know nothing about the office. So Casey just asked me, he was like, hey, they're having an office night. Do you just want to come and like see if you can win? I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so,
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
And so I needed, he wanted somebody else there with office knowledge, and usually I take Madeline, but since Holden's the only other person that's watched The Office recently, I asked him, and he wants to go.
So do you win something?
Yeah, you win $100 gift card certificate or gift card to the restaurant.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I've taken at least like 5 or 6 of like the office like hardest quizzes. I've gotten almost all of them right.
Okay,
That's
there
awesome.
you go.
Although I will say I was surprised at the obscurity of some of the questions that we got.
Oh my gosh.
They were just so out there.
Harrison, do you
"What?"
know the name of the city that Family Guy is located in?
No, I don't watch Family Guy.
Okay, do you remember? Okay, let me ask you this question: the movie The Mask. Do you remember that? What was the name of the lead character, Jim Carrey's character?
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie in forever.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
see, that was so hard. Some of those were so hard.
And then the lyrics, I'm like, you gave me two. It's like name that tune. I can name that tune in 2 notes. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you look at it and you go, oh, okay, but I don't listen to this. You know,
Name That Tune was such a great show when we were growing up.
You think so?
I don't know.
I never knew any of the songs.
I didn't, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I liked it. I just thought it was cool. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, that was pretty much our week
Yeah, that was there.
and a wrap.
wrap.
Harrison, do you want to throw us our stuff?
Oh, I got to talk about something real quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go.
Business concept.
Business concept,
Okay,
go.
so I had this thought on the way into work today, and I thought to myself, the concept of cannot, 2 words, and can do, also 2 words. And I thought to myself, you should always strive to be a can doer and not a can notter. Because so often, and I thought to myself, and I have extensive knowledge with this, I won't say who, I know people that are very, their default is, we can't do that. Or how can I possibly do that? Mm-hmm. Instead of looking at it positively and saying, well, how can I make it happen?
All right.
And I thought, if you're looking at, say, 3 individuals, and say your HVAC unit is bad, and the first 2 individuals come and say, the only way to fix this is to redo the entire system to the cost of $10,000. You're going, what? Okay. Because it can't be done any other way. There's no other way to do it besides this.
Right.
And you have some enterprising third person come in and go, I've never done this before, but I think I can do this for you for a fraction of the cost.
This
Is
coming
this
from last
pertaining
night.
to last night?
Yeah, is this from last night?
No, I'm just thinking
Oh,
broad concept.
yeah, not last night.
Broad
Okay.
concept. Okay. So I thought, well, you're reading into this concept.
No. This is from last night's conversation at the dinner table. This is from the dinner conversation last night.
Okay, going back to my example, that third individual comes in and goes, I've never done this before, but let me try this. I might be able to do it for you at a fraction of the cost. And they do it.
Okay.
Who's valued more highly? The 2 people that said they couldn't do it, or the third person that came in and said they could?
I
Concept?
think the CanNotter is probably more efficient, don't you think?
No.
Isn't that true?
Okay, what is the business concept, though? You said you had a business concept.
Always trying to default to can do instead of cannot. Over time, you'll be valued much more highly if you are, and it's about getting results. If you get results, it's kind of like somebody saying, well, you're in sales.
Okay, this is because of the conversation last night. However, I would like...
I didn't bring this
I would
around,
like
you
to
guys
say-
did.
This is the problem, okay? I am not a CanNotter.
I agree.
I am a person.
I didn't say that you were. I said the concept came up in my mind this morning.
I'm a person that likes quality over just rushing to get it done.
Yes.
So instead of getting,
my
for
word, you
example,
guys are- that's
instead of
not-
getting, for example, all the elderly sisters and brothers together and putting them on a podcast, which there's like 6 or 7 of them, and I don't have enough microphones, and there's not a big enough room. I'd rather not squeeze them all in here and sweat to death and try and do the podcast. Instead, I'd rather do it right and
Your
get
dad's
some.
hair is like falling because it's sweating so much. No, I'm saying I was relating it back to myself and people that have been in my life in the past. I was.
You were just
I
throwing
was.
it out there.
Oh, okay.
No,
you guys are
you were.
terrible.
I agree that that's probably what you were doing. Is you were thinking to yourself, who do I want to be? Like, and how do
Yes,
I?
a broad concept is instead of default to cannot, default to can do. And it may be after multiple tries, it's not possible, but don't default to that's not possible. I can't do it.
I don't think, though, to go back to what brought this all into your brain was last night's conversation about the elders. And the thing that I think is the misconception that you had is that his response to you comes out as a cannot. It's not. It is, let me think about this and digest all this information you just threw at me and figure out a way to get it done. And instead you're interpreting.
Okay, that's not. Anyway, though, that's not what came out. So I'm just saying. I'm saying.
I did not say I can't. Mom told me the idea.
You said there's no way we can do that.
No, I know I did not.
No, he didn't.
Mom told me the idea,
You
and I
like
said,
to jump in and go,
Yes.
we can do it. And
I
I'm
said-
like, but wait a minute, it's not your job to do it. So you can't just say we can do it.
Okay. Last night, my only thing was it's possible.
I said, I don't know, and then you're like, nope. you can do it. And I was like, no, let me think about it. And you're like, no, you can't. You got to do it. I was like,
okay, everybody, the joys of running a family business.
Good Lord.
Okay.
All right, Dad, you're
I
fired.
do agree.
I'm just
Dad.
saying that if you were in a business situation, I'll never forget a guy at Lilly one time was talking about your dad. And this is right after I got to law school, and I went to meet, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about your dad. And he said, you know, your dad's always impressed me so much with his can-do attitude. And I thought, if people could mimic that and say, because if your boss comes to you and says, hey, XYZ, we're thinking about doing da-da-da-da-da, if you're like, absolutely, we can make it happen.
Here's what happens, though. This is, and I'm
Oh, my
only saying
word.
this. I agree completely. Okay, yeah, we won't talk about what happened last night. I agree completely that should be
As a broader
what
concept, you
happens.
must have that as
Yes.
your default. Because if you don't, eventually, because it's all in business or anything else in life, it's about getting results. And if
Right.
you are known as someone who can get results, over time you'll be more highly valued than someone
I
who
agree.
can't.
I agree.
So, and that was my only point with that, is that sometimes I've known people in my life that have said, family members that have said, I mean, they're constant, it's over decades, can't, instead of saying, of course I can do it. Of course it's possible that this could happen.
Right.
So let's make it happen.
Right.
Instead of defaulting with, to it's not possible.
No, but it is if you, yes, under your own scope, under
Yes.
your own set of responsibilities. Absolutely. I think that is important to be that way.
I remember I had a boss once this years ago. I was 17 years old, 16, whatever, and it was this upstart restaurant, and one of their things was, when it came to client service, it was over the top, I get it, but it was, the answer is yes, what's the question? And the point of that is that it doesn't matter what we have to do to make you happy, we're going to do it within reason. But if you start with that, the beauty of that particular statement is that if you start with that as your paradigm, you're much more likely to deliver results to the client versus, I don't know.
Right.
That's all. That's the only thing that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Have to say.
Okay. There
So-
we go. Be a can-doer, not a can-notter.
That's it.
All right. Harrison, throw me some merchandise. But don't obligate other people to be can-doers. That's what I do. So we're going to take care of a baby on Friday night. Oh, but wait, I'm not going to be there. Okay, so throw me
Yeah, I love this
a...
voluntold stuff that goes on. Oh, we're
All
watching
right, so the
no.
holidays-
It's always pitches. We're going to do this, and then it morphs into, oh, by the way, you're doing this.
All right, so the holidays are coming, and with that, we have stocking hats.
How do you sell this as a staff?
Stocking hats.
Don't show the staff.
Yeah, dingus. Okay.
Okay.
So we want to encourage everybody to visit the
Whoop.
merch store at asvcmerch.com and check out the shirts, which are actually, seriously, super comfortable.
No, they are nice shirts.
And they're that really soft, thin cotton. And then these cool hats. So check them out because the hats keep you super warm along with the shirts.
Yes, they do.
So check us out, asvcmerch.com. And if you want to be on the podcast and you have a business out there and you want to promote it and you want to talk about business, or you have a family that you want to talk about, give us a holler. All right, everybody. We'll see you next Monday on Five Boys in a Business. I'm Emily King.
Richie King here.
And we'll see you
Next time.
Next time.
We're out.